Nick Mendola, the semifinals are set. Who are the favourites? Let's talk it through. We now know that in May, Man City are going to play Real Madrid, and then the small matter of AC Milan against Inter Milan in the Milan derby as well. Those are the 4 remaining teams in the Champions League this season. I'm pretty sure we would have said Man City and Real Madrid would probably be 2 of those, but none of us really had AC Milan or Inter Milan being in the semi-finals. So what's your general takeaway on sort of the favourites and where they stack up? Because, I think we'd probably say City and Real Madrid are the heavy favourites, whoever goes through from that side of the bracket to win it all, right?
Yeah, I rate Inter a little bit ahead of AC Milan at this point, just because of the focal point. And I know Olivier Giroud is turning back the years, and he's doing his best Karim Benzema, if you will. But I think ultimately the fact that this match is a derby, that this tie, I should say, is a derby, makes it very difficult to say one or the other is favored, because we know how those games go. You could be much worse. I think of so many Newcastle-Sunderland games over the year where one team was better than the other in the standings and it just didn't matter. And I'm sure you can think of the same for Saints back in the day against Pompey, right? It just didn't matter. So it's hard to say on that side. On the Man City side, the question for me is, how much is last year going to loom? And I don't mean loom during the lead up to the game. I mean once the game starts and Man City, who I kind of expect to be in control of the tie, takes the lead or goes down. Either way, but especially if they take the lead, they'll be thinking this can go away at any minute. We know how late they struck now, and maybe that keeps them extra vigilant. But because of that, because of the mental game being, in my opinion, all on Real Madrid's favor, should we consider, Joe, let me ask you, should we consider Real the favorite?
Probably, because last season nobody really gave them a chance, and they obviously got past Chelsea and City in the semi-final stage to then beat Liverpool when, again, they weren't favoured either really then, even though it's Real Madrid. And in that game, they struggled but somehow found a way. So I think that's what we're seeing, right? Even against Chelsea in the quarters, struggled in that first half at Stamford Bridge, held on, and then the quality on the counter. That's the thing with Real. If you're going to give them a couple of opportunities a game, they're probably going to put them both away. So they are an extremely dangerous team, experienced team. But I just feel like City have learned a lot of good lessons from last year. I think they've learned, even during this season, how to control games in different ways. We're seeing the John Stones hybrid role that Pep Guardiola has put into place purely, I think, to give them a bit more cover and then a bit more of a threat when they're, recovering from transitions, and then to even have more control of games, and that's even possible for them. So I am intrigued to see if Pep is going to outthink himself against Real Madrid, because we know in the final against Chelsea a few years ago, he did that. He's got a history of doing that. But I think he's almost done that early, with this John Stones situation, the formation to a 3-2-4-1. It's now like, they figured out a way of doing that. But watch out for Rodrigo and Vinicius there, because that is the one area, as we saw with Bayern against City, out wide when you had, Leroy Sané on one wing, Kingsley Coman on the other. If they can get the ball forward quickly to wide players, opponents who are playing City with that sort of back three initially that then covers and becomes a back four, the cover and the defending has to be great, and it has been. Nathan Ake has been excellent. Ruben Diaz has been excellent. Akanji's been absolutely sensational as well. So I think they found a way to do it, Nick, and be a bit more controlled. But Real Madrid, the key for them in this game is to do exactly what they did against Chelsea. Just be patient. They're going to have to bunker in. And then, they've got players who we know can hurt opponents on the counter-attack. So Man City, Real Madrid's going to be epic. But I would probably just give City the edge in that one right now. And that lines up with what we said last week. They're the favourites, pretty much clear, right, to win this.
Yeah, they and frankly, they have the best. They have the best difference maker at each position, right? And I think if you were to go step to step to step, with the exception of Courtois, with all due respect to Ederson, Courtois is he's been there, done that, right? Or as you would say, let's add and bought the T-shirt. But whether it's Ruben Diaz and Akanji, but especially Diaz and Rodri, he allows them to have, essentially, when a team does collect possession, like Bayern Munich, when we saw them controlling the game, it was still very much in. Man City wasn't terribly worried by it. if that makes sense. And
There's
so,
more control.
yeah, they have 5 defenders out. I mean, Rodri, we've seen him operate at center back. We've seen Ake operate in center back of a back four. So that's 5 center backs back there who can all pass the ball like crazy. And what I don't think Bernardo Silva was particularly strong yesterday, but the effort that him and Grealish have wide, we know they're not fullbacks, but they're totally bought in right now to
Mhm.
recovering the ball, to being where they need to be, and the system is humming along. So
Great.
unless a Premier League team shows Real Madrid a way to break this system, that I think what you're going to see is Man City in control, but really anybody can win because, as you mentioned, Madrid's counter.
Yeah, but then you've got De Bruyne and Haaland who are just on otherworldly form right now as well. So that's probably the X factor right there, not just for this game, but for the whole tournament. What about AC Milan against Inter then? Because when you look at the Serie A table, this is fourth playing fifth in the Serie A table in the Champions League semi-finals. So I guess I'm looking at which team would have the better chance of actually winning the Champions League and upsetting either City or Real Madrid. And do you think it's Inter with maybe their extra attacking threat and just I don't know because they're both kind of similar teams, AC Milan and Inter.
They're
When I'm looking
very
at
similar.
right, it's it's great to see them back though. It's been a long time since AC in particular have been at this stage of a Champions League, so it feels like we're rolling back a couple of decades with this as a semi-final. But this is brilliant for Italian football to have these two teams in the semi-final.
You know, it's funny. Inter it's something crazy. I think they've gone a half dozen games in Serie A without winning. Perhaps when you look at the table, that's why it doesn't reflect what I believe to be, again, if this wasn't a derby, if we were talking about two teams that you're pulling off the streets and then throwing into arena together, you would say, I think Inter's better here. But you just can't get past that. And the sort of players that Milan has, to their credit, who are sort of rise to the occasion players. And they also have some guys who kind of sneak under the radar. Tonali is a wonderful player, an
Yeah,
absolutely wonderful player. And Leao has been linked with
yeah.
every other team you could think of. So I think their lack of depth maybe at center forward or at a lot of the forward positions should be alarming to AC Milan. But at the same time, again, when you're going into a game against someone you hate, when you're going to a game and you know that every single player understands the stakes, a lot of times that means anybody can come out with a win. And that's why it's really tricky for me to say anything other than Inter those are the margins.
There's going to be very few goals. I feel like it's safe to say this is going to be like maybe a 1 or a 2 goal cushion here. I'm probably going to go with. I would go with Inter to win this.
Yeah.
I think AC Milan, if they won, they would have a better chance at upsetting either Real Madrid or Man City. The way that they play and just being a bit more defensive minded, I think there's a solidity about them that if they did get past Inter, I'd be more worried if I was the winner of the other semi-final than playing against Inter. Is that fair enough to say?
You have to believe in what you saw from Milan against Napoli. I mean, that's the premier, probably, right? That's the premier attack outside of Man City in the world right now. I mean, they're collecting honors and compliments and plaudits as if they're going out of style. And to hold them to 1 goal over 2 legs is mighty impressive. So you're right. I think I like Milan in the underdog role. And I also like Milan on that stage. I just think there's something about Milan in a Champions League final that feels like they're supposed to be there even when they're not.
That's true. It's very true. So, what a couple games that will be. Real Madrid against Man City, AC Milan against Inter Milan. And remember, head over to Pro Soccer Talk at NBCSports.com for all the latest preview, how to follow analysis, reaction, video highlights. We'll have you covered from those 2 massive Champions League semi-finals.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.